Everybody ready? We're going to begin. Good evening and welcome to the March 29th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast on cable channel 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. I'd like to thank our staff for their continued support to this commission and their diligence assisting applicants. We're missing one commissioner tonight. However, we have a quorum, so we're moving forward. I'd like to remind you guys that for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Let's try not to trip over each other. And that all votes are done by roll call, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. A link and further instructions are located on the agenda. Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I'll call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct, and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. Therefore, as an applicant, you really want to hear a negative determination. And for the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued. 418 West Falmouth Highway and 23 Child River Road. First up tonight, minutes, March 15, 2023.
Chairman, I reviewed the minutes and I found them to be accurate, pending any other comments this evening. I'd move approval. Patton.
Carla Hawk, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. All right, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carla Hawk's aye.
Melissa.
Tug, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes as submitted. Thank you, Kristen. First up is a request. Actually, it's a second thing. Request for a continuance under notice of intent. Brad and Lucille Nelson, 418 West Falmouth Highway, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove an existing deck, construct 2 additions, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 19th.
So moved, Carla Hawks. Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 4/19. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carla Hawk's aye.
Melissa.
Tug, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 19th. Next up is our request for determination of applicability. First up, Jorge Garcia, 222 Acapesket Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct existing landscaping walls in the same footprint, remove a tree, prune dead branches, plant native vegetation, and replace lawn and existing irrigation system. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carla Hawk, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff recommendation. There's no questions? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, tall guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Royal McGansett Nursing Home, care of Dave Williamson, 209 County Road, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to replace a failing septic manhole and to repave any disturbed pavement. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carla Hawk, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, tall guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Anthony Avini, 42 Squibnocket Drive, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to replace 2 pilings on an existing licensed dock. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area, resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carla Hawk, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, tall guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, John Bowen, 102 Grand Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For after the fact permission to construct paver parking and for permission to reconfigure the driveway, install a rinse station, stepping stones, cobble edging, fencing, and lawn replacement. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is solely located in an AE flood zone.
Bird, so move. And I have
Carla
a
Hawk,
question.
second.
Courtney,
Just a clarification. Does the after the fact permission include all of those things or just the driveway?
Just the paver parking. Everything else is proposed.
Okay, thank you.
anything else? All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa? You're on mute.
Right, tall guy. Sorry about that.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Rebecca and George Honeywell, 3 Quistit Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct the garage with a screen porch above and to install mitigation plantings. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carla Hawk, second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, tall guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Alcola Realty Nominee Trust, care of Jonathan M. Katz, trustee, 451 Wild Harbor Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to relocate a flagpole and path and to reestablish an area of mitigation plantings. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Joseph and Kelly Wagner, 103 Beach Street, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a patio, plunge pool, and spa. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carla Hawk, second.
we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Danny and Lisa Wissell, 87 Lakeshore Drive, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a series of granite steps down a slope. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carla Hawk, second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you to the staff for their consistent work on these, makes it go kind of quick. Thank you. Next up, request for hearing under notice of intent. The first one has already been continued. Brings us to Teresa Mancini, 7 J Road Realty Trust, 7 J Road, Falmouth, Mass. Oh, hold on, hold that thought. Skip the step. Have to do my legalese. Sorry about that. We're gonna start again. Parental all hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. Again, the first hearing has been previously continued. Brings us to Teresa Mancini, 7 J Road Realty Trust, 7 J Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a patio. Done.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Tom Bunker up to present his project.
Mr. Bunker, good evening. Sorry about that delay. You're up, sir.
Good evening. Yeah, certainly no problem with the delay. I'll put my screen up and tell you what we're thinking about.
Perfect.
This house, 7J, for the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. We permitted this house originally, can't remember, a few years ago. It's a very tight site with a septic system up front, and you can see it's very tight all around and squeezed in by the zone A of this vernal pool in the back. And so the house could not have been built closer to the road. The new owner, not the original builder, but the owner, would like to have, feels that this area between the house and the vegetation is, doesn't get much sun. The ground is a little wet, gets muddy and all, and she wanted to have a patio put back there. So it'd be easier walking, someplace to put a chair, whatever, easier access to the back door in the house. So what's being proposed is, I can show you this line right here. This A line is the 100-foot vernal pool, zone A. The line is A line further from the house is the 50-foot coastal bank buffer. Let me zoom out back to this one a little bit. We have the 50-foot coastal bank buffer, and there is a wetland around the vernal pool. So way down here is the 50-foot BVW zone A. And like I said, the zone A for the coastal bank in this location, in the vernal pool zone A right here. So when the house, this construction was approved, there's a requirement to put a fence along the limit of work, and that was done, as you can see. I'll go back to this one. Maybe a little hard to tell with our work limit, but this line with the circles in it here is the fence, and you can see that's not right along the zone A. It's 1 or up to 2 feet from that zone A line. And the fence is not proposed to be moved any closer to the zone A. And we have this a foot from the fence. We're proposing this patio, which we put in a pervious way that it has. I think we have a detail, but it's built on. Do we have a detail? Maybe not. It's built on built on pervious material, has gaps between the blocks. It works. I have a patio built out of this at my own house, and it does drain the water right through when constructed properly. And so this is a pervious surface. And I understand about in the staff comment, it is said that this will violate the no structure zone. But I might be wrong, but I don't know of any definition of a structure in Falmouth that includes patio. The intent, if you read the intent, it was so that to prevent damage to the native plants into that zone A, which would typically happen if you had a real structure being built very close to it, as we know, and then later on, access around the house for maintenance and repairs. I don't believe that having a patio in this location, for one, I don't believe it violates the no structure zone, because a patio is not considered a structure, and it serves the purpose of providing access around the house for maintenance and repairs. I believe it does not subvert the intent of the no structure zone. That is, there is a fence there, and they're not going to take down the fence to get over it. And there's, having this here is not going to, in any way, I think, cause the owner to do damage beyond the fence. So I'll take this down and I'll take questions.
All right, Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tom, your client needs to remedy to the fact that she's encroaching on 15J Road with the
Yes, I
shed
saw that.
and the plantings. So we either need permission from 15J Road, or those structures need to be relocated.
Right.
And two, and I told you I was going to remind the board of this, Tom, you and I and the board had a discussion when this house was being built about the lack of outdoor space that the plan had. No decks, no patios. We pointed it out at the hearing, that it was lacking outdoor space, and that if the applicant wanted some outdoor space, they were going to have to reduce the size of the house to fit everything they wanted on the lot. The staff has and always will say that 10-foot offset should and has in the past applied to patios. And that is the position of the staff. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron,
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
all right. Commissioner comments, Betsy.
What improvement are you offering for this
I don't.
patio?
Yeah, I don't know that there is any more. I mean, one, it could, there is a little bit, there's a row of shrubs that they required to put in, and there's a little bit of bare space behind the shrubs. We could, on the plan, there's no improvement proposed.
Well, that's sort of a requirement. But an improvement to any of the resources areas described in FWR 10.02 1A through E must be provided. So I'll let you think about that.
Yeah, okay.
That's all, Jamie.
All right. Courtney.
I'll go along with Betsy. I want you to think about that. No other questions.
All right. Maury.
Quick question. The 1/4-inch area to fill with chips in the pervious tech block pavers. How many square feet of pavers are there, and how much of the joint is there for pervious? Because the pavers are not pervious at all.
It's a small percentage that's pervious out of that 1/4-inch gap. But it does drain water.
Well,
And
it sheets off. It sheets off, and especially in the winter when it's frozen, it sheets off.
Mhm.
And the amount of area, which is very minimal between those cracks, and we've been through this pervious paver malarkey for a long time, and the pavers themselves are impervious.
Right.
And I think we need to start having calculations for the little teeny 1/4-inch gap in between these that becomes pervious. And I agree with Betsy. I want to see where the improvements are. Thank you.
I can say one thing. I believe, and depending on the soil around it. And this, I'm referring to the one I have at my own house. The water goes through this surface more readily than it does through my lawn soil or my garden soil. And there'll be, and that depending on, I have a loamy soil, not sand. But the patio does drain better than my lawn.
Well, then you should give us calculations what the soils are there, because your soils might be different than these soils.
Yeah, they probably are. Yeah.
And, if anything, there should probably be some sort of box drain on the edge of that patio with dry wells to capture, because there will be runoff. And again, this project, when we first saw it, it was clear for any expansion that we were concerned about that runoff onto that property. And you have lawn to the, the west area of the property that you could put the pavers instead of so close to the resource area. And that's all. Thank you.
All right. Melissa,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple of questions, and I'll echo what Betsy said as well, or I won't echo it. I'll agree with it. Tom.
Yeah.
Vernal pools are really, really special things to have. And I'm sorry about the lighting situation I have here. You mentioned that in the verbiage, the location of the fence is more than 100 feet from the vernal pool, but yet even just now when you were showing us the close-up, the fence and the 100-foot line for the vernal pool were one and the same. So it's a little disingenuous there. But I have a question for you. It goes back to Latin class. You said that a patio is not a construction or is not a structure, correct? But
Yes.
But you're going to construct a patio, correct?
Oh, a person could
Oh,
install
yeah.
a patio.
Oh, somebody's going to construct a
Well,
patio. And
I'm talking about the actual definitions in town codes.
yeah, okay. well,
Zoning and
I'm-
all do not consider patios to be structures.
We're not zoning.
Well, you don't have a definition otherwise.
Well, I've got my Latin that says con means with, and structure, of course, is a structure. But other than that, I'm wondering, you mentioned that there's going to be an edging on this patio if it gets built that will be an inch higher than the blocks. And I'm wondering if you really think that's going to be sufficient to keep the water, any flowing water from encroaching and flowing down awkwardly into the wetland and everything, or does it need to be higher or should it be lower? And what about the little salamanders who are coming up? I mean, if you say it's a wet area already, we all know that this is the time of year when we want to be helping those little guys. Will that 1 inch be sufficient?
It will help. It'll probably help in most rains, not downpours.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to show my screen again and show you that I'm not being disingenuous. The line of the 100-foot zone A and the fence are not one and the same. If you look at it, there's
I've got it right
clearly
here
a
in
foot or
front of me.
two.
I've got it right here in front of me.
And they're not the same.
not the same.
I'm
Tom, go
not
ahead.
being disingenuous.
Okay, they're pretty close. They're pretty close. So I'd like to know about restoration or about mitigation plantings. And also just a heads up on Mass Mapper. I'm on Massachusetts GIS. Not only is the shed encroaching upon 15 J Road, but the houses as well on Mass Mapper. So
You can't believe a GIS for that type of thing.
okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay, well, I'd like to see a little more about some plantings and maybe reduce the size of or the scope of the whole project. Please, thank you.
All right, Steve,
Thank you. I remember the original proposal and my concern at the time that there was no exterior space, and it's worthy of exterior space. Really, it's a nice spot. I am not as negative, I guess, on these pavers but it's a non-technical opinion. So when I looked at it, I thought this backyard looks like it's just running off into the woods now. So if we put something here, maybe it wouldn't run off as much. But I also remember saying you would have to go through this whole process if you wanted to add something in the back, and you are. So I'd like to hear how we handle this one.
all right. My thoughts are that if we did allow this, I think a box drain would be beneficial as opposed to the damming. So my 2 cents. All right. Staff, anything further from the staff?
The only thing I'd like to say to the board is sometimes you see projects like this one where, the issue was raised at the original hearing that outdoor space should be incorporated into the project. And Tom, lucky for you, I did not look at the old tape or minutes, but I'll be sure to for the next hearing and quote you just to remind you. But I want to caution the board that, permitting this, you're just further encroaching onto that buffer. Someone's going to be sitting on the patio. There's going to be shrubs that overhang the patio, trees that overhang the patio that are ultimately, that may be cut or pruned to open that space up. What should have happened is at the original hearing, this house should have been reduced in size to incorporate some outdoor space. They refused to do that. And that was a choice that was made. So staff is going to take the position that 10-foot from that project to that limit of work should be required for patios, decks, structures, anything. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anybody else? All right, what are we thinking? Steve?
Just, Mr. Chairman, on that last point, when we're deciding where the closest point to a body of water, a 100-foot, a 50-foot line, do we include the patio when we're making those calculations?
Yes, we do, Steve.
Just trying to be consistent.
No, and that's.
I'm
No,
not
I
sure.
understand.
Okay. Thank you.
But
Whatever Steve is asking about, you don't, the closest point, if you're talking about redevelopment, you certainly don't include patio to calculate where a new structure can be built. So you don't treat patio and structure the same in that respect.
This wasn't redevelopment.
No, I know,
This
but I
was a
was
new-
just
this was a
wanted
new
to
building.
clarify what Steve was asking. I know this isn't redevelopment. And
When
I
we're
didn't-
looking at closest point, we look at structure. We look at the house, we look at deck. Do we include patio? I'd have to go back and look, but this was not redevelopment.
No, I know, but, and I didn't know if this is what Steve was asking, but
Yeah.
you don't
It was, thank
count
you.
the patio to establish where a structure can be built. That is, a new structure can't be as close as the patio necessarily.
Correct.
All right. What are we thinking?
Sure, they're not treated the same.
Tom, I think the board's looking for a drain and to
Yeah.
see what you can come up with for some improvements.
Improvements to the resource
If you
area.
want to close this, we can, but I think the board is looking for a little bit more improvements to the site. And we also need permission from either the abutting property owner or we need to see a proposed location for that shed because right now it's encroaching on her neighbor's property.
Proposed location outside of the 10 feet, right?
Yes.
All right, Jen, before we
Yeah.
get too far ahead of ourselves, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So I
Tom,
would
what are you thinking?
I would like to request a continuance, more than 2 weeks. I don't know what the hearing schedule is.
Let me take a look for you, Tom. So you want more than 2 weeks? More than 2 weeks would bring us to the 19th. Do you need the 26th on this one?
Say 2 weeks or more than. Well,
The
I think there's-
19th would give you 3 weeks. So you would have to have the plan in 2 weeks,
yes,
which
We
is
don't
the
meet on the
12th,
12th, Tom.
or you can have the 26th.
No, I think the 19th.
Okay,
I'll have it in 2 weeks.
okay, sounds good.
At the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this to April? Is it April?
April 19th.
19th.
Bartok
Bird,
second.
Bird second.
Too slow, Courtney. You lose. All right, we have a motion and a second. It's till 4:19. If there's nothing further. All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Bartok, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 19th. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll stay in the audience, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let me move you back there,
I
Tom.
think you're up now.
All right, next up, Joseph M. Lacana, 23 Child River Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconfigure the driveway, remove an existing deck and patios, install a new patio with retaining wall, construct a rinse station, and install mitigation and restoration plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 19th.
So moved, Gladfelter.
Carla
Bird
Hawks
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until April 19th. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Bartok, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 19th. Next up, John and Karen Daigle, 27 Davis Neck Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a pool and patio, reconstruct and enlarge an existing deck, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
I have to promote Tom Bunker up again. I put him back in that. attendees.
Oh, that was kind of mean.
I thought this one was Cape and Islands.
I thought he was next. I was like, it's the only one left.
Sorry about that, Joel.
Yeah, I could have stayed, I guess.
Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
Fortunately, I didn't have to get a slice of pizza or anything. Okay, thank you. Just for the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. And I'll put a screen up, or rather I'll share my screen and show you our plan and take comments. Where's that share? Okay, there was an extensive staff report on this. I'll get to that in a moment. This house, there was actually through an RDA, I believe, there were some additions approved on the street side, and they're a year or so ago, and they're in the midst of construction of the renovations of the house. The deck had been previously, there had been a deck on there, but it's not there now. It's on the RDA plan that showed a deck. And what they want to do is add a 20-foot by 25-foot swimming pool in this location in the southwest corner of the house. So we have the salt marsh resource area down along here, land under a water body, and they have a boat basin in here. So the coastal bank, salt marsh. Looking for the land under a water body setback. Maybe we didn't get that one on there, but it's 75 feet land under a water body. They have a velocity zone running through here. And the Falmouth Velocity Zone runs across the site, which is partway across the swimming pool. And this is all lawn down here, down to the little boat basin that we have. And the zone B, the swimming pool is only proposed in zone B of the salt marsh, or zone B of the coastal bank rather. The zone A of the salt marsh is right through here. And this pit will be moved out of the zone A as requested in the staff report. And then some of the pool is in zone B of the coastal bank, and some out here is not in any zone, but it is in other than the flood zone. It's not in one of the zone A or B's. And so the proposal is to be at grade in here. This wall facing it, the pool will be on elevation 11, and so the wall through here will be about 1.5 feet high for the pool, and with a narrow 2 foot wide patio around it here and around it here, which is partly a continuation of the deck running around in this location. The calculations are on the page where here. So we have no change in zone A. The increase in coverage in the zone. One of my guys does it this way, but there's 400 square feet of deck was removed, or we're counting that as being removed, and then 888 square feet is being put back because of a new deck and the pool in the zone B. And so there's an increase of 483 square feet of coverage, multiplied by 2 is 966 square feet of planting. And I had this plant list from Joyce Landscape, and there was a, what's it, St. John's wort. I don't even know what that is, but didn't sound native to me. Staff wants a different plant specified rather than the St. John's wort. And I'd like to think we can work with staff. Joyce Landscaping can work with staff and find a plant that would substitute for that. The mitigation planting we have up here is up here. It's on a lawn area between the two, and this another point in the staff report is this path is going to be retained, and that's not that path. Get back to more in the staff report. There had been in this area some mitigation planting from a previous one back in 2005, I think, which I didn't catch, even though we have the plan in our file. There was mitigation planting here, and so the new mitigation would have to be in addition. We have to put that planting back and then do additional planting on top of that. I mean, that's basically the crux of it. If I can find maybe Jen or Alyssa could go through the staff report, but we'll change out the St. John's wort to give a native plant there. The dry well will be moved, and we will have to add back in the mitigation planting. And there was on an old plan it showed some oak trees through here. So we'll have to work with. I'd like it if we could get condition that we'll add in that amount of planting and the 3 trees where they had been done and be able to close the hearing. But if we see Jen's shaking her head, and we'll have to take a continuance if we have to work this out. I'll take you, listen to the comments now.
Thanks, Tom. Jen?
Yes, Tom, thank you for addressing the drywall for the pool. If you could just kind of smush that out of that
Yeah.
zone A, that would be great. We do understand there's going to be a slight over dig into that zone A for the salt marsh, but it's lawn area, so we're not too concerned with that. We just don't want any structure, anything in there, and that drywall, would be that. So that would be great. Thank you. Tom, I would like to see a revised plan with the mitigation so that we can properly address, if we have any discrepancies with what you draw in our records and everything like that. So I do think a revised plan is appropriate so we can put back. I mean, I'm looking at an aerial right now from 2005, and the area looks vegetated, so we have to go back and see, is that mitigation in addition to that vegetated area that was there? And then this will be even more mitigation. And also the placement of the mitigation, that should be closest to the resource area. So maybe incorporated along that edge of lawn near the salt marsh, that would be great. And I think that's all we have. Oh, and please advise your clients to stop cutting the coastal bank buffer. That would be helpful.
Yes, and there's the question that was brought up there, and I think, the landscaper brought it up about the bamboo.
Oh yeah, there is bamboo there. I've had to go out to that property over a dispute between the property owner and the neighbor about the cutting of the bamboo. So Alyssa's suggestion of a root barrier is appropriate.
Yeah, and I had emailed, I actually gotten something from the landscaper suggesting a root barrier. I emailed it to you or
Okay.
Alyssa.
Okay, great.
Earlier today. A protocol for putting it in and remove, cutting and possibly dripping into the bamboo to kill it off on one side.
So why don't you incorporate that into your revised plan and possible supplemental narrative on this project? But I do think we're going to need a continuance, Tom. Sorry.
Yeah.
April 19th.
Well, we've got two that we haven't heard. J Road should be fairly quick. And this should be fairly quick. So Tom, if you wanted to go on the 19th, that would be fine. And
Kind of jumping the gun
Tom,
here.
just a suggestion, when you're looking and designing these projects, and I know you're really busy, like everybody, like the staff. It's really helpful to go through those aerial photos that are on GIS. And if you ever wanted to go through the near map, we're very generous with our near map. We'll share our near map with you. We'll show it to you. It's just helpful. So we don't have to be the ones bringing up the fact that, hey, all this vegetation disappeared. So just a thought to look at the aerials that are available on the town. And if you see something that you want more clarification on, again, the near maps go back 5 years, every 6 months. And that's a useful tool. We found it to be a very useful tool. And obviously we will share whatever we have with you.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Just to echo Jen's comments, I would also say that a revision would be necessary because unfortunately these changes have resulted in 2 violations on the site over a period of 15 plus years. So I think we need to see more details before approving a plan. I can look back in aerials, Jen, in reference to, was there any natural vegetation on the property in addition to the plantings? I think it might be hard to tell simply because unfortunately vegetation was removed on the property to the north as well, which will be addressed separately. So I'm not sure how good the aerials are prior to 05, if we can really tell, but I will take a look at that.
I've been looking from 05 to now. So.
Okay. And then my last point was a secondary violation that occurred around 2010. It looked like there was some damage to the existing trees in the yard. There were staff notes from, I believe, Mark at the time stating that they could be removed and replaced with the proper filing, but the filing was never received. Considering that there aren't too many trees on the property, there's definitely a couple cedars along the coast which have been topped over the years because they look like a little ball now. So I think seeing those trees go back, or at least an appropriate amount, would be beneficial to the site. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Courtney.
You're calling me, I'm sorry. Yeah, all right. I have, the only comment I have, or only question, is there, what's the provision for fence around the pool? I don't see anything.
Courtney, I missed that last part.
It isn't. I didn't see it on the plan.
A pool fence.
Oh,
Fence.
a pool fence. Tom, does it have an automatic pool cover?
I believe it's an automatic, I'll check with them. I think it's an automatic pool cover. If not, obviously we'll have to put a fence
Oh,
in.
is that what you're doing? Yeah, okay. No
Yeah,
other
yeah.
questions?
You know, that's what everybody's doing now because they don't want a fence, but I'll check with Mr. Daigle.
Thank you.
No other questions.
All right. Jen, are we okay with this? We got a clip of the pool going in the V zone, the velocity zone.
You've permitted pools in a V zone before.
Pool. Yeah. Okay.
We've had that discussion before. So,
Yeah, I just thought I'd verbalize it.
yep,
Be the
that's
bad
fine.
guy. All right, Maury.
My only question, concern, and Jen covered it, is that the plant mitigation be closer to the resource and not all shoved in the corner. And I'd also like to maybe see not so much sheep laurel, but more woody indigenous that we're used to seeing in that kind of environment, which would be beach plum or bayberry. Definitely not St. John's wort and sheep laurel. And a lot of the Carolina rose gets a little invasive, but I'm okay with that. Other than that, thank you.
All right. Melissa.
Thank you. I'm glad that you've decided to relocate the leach pit to, I assume, the front yard, or at least out into the B zone. I had a question though, sort of along the line of Courtney's question about the pool and the fencing. The pool is, it encroaches into the V zone, and what do you call it? There's only concrete or some kind of impervious paving around three ends of it, but the fourth end, is that just going to be lawn that goes right up to the pool there with no lawn furniture, nothing, or?
No furniture. That's as far as I know. It's not really high enough to be called one of those infinity edge pools, but it will, as I said, it'll stick up about a foot or foot and a half above grade at one corner. The pool will be at elevation 11 and the ground goes down to about 9.5. And that little patio on two sides, will be out there also, but there's no patio across the seaward side of the pool.
And so it will just be grass and mud and dirt off the end of the pool there? No plantings, no?
At the moment, I asked him if he had any particular landscape plan that he was going to do, and I didn't get one. And if there is one, we'll pass it by you guys first for approval.
Yeah, it just strikes me as a great way to get a lot of grass into your pool by having grass be right there, as opposed to having, as opposed to shrinking the pool a few feet and putting a little bit of patio around the edge of it. It just
Melissa, the pool's a foot and a half higher than grade.
Yeah. Foot and a half. Yeah, okay. I get it. Thanks. And then also, again, along the lines of the plantings, I'd like to see the updated planting plans now that we realize that there's some old mitigation plantings missing. St. John's wort is a pretty little yellow flower with red stands. People make tea out of it to while away depression. But I don't think I've ever seen it on the Cape. Belongs in pastures in up north. Okay, that's enough.
Tom, you could have a tea garden. All right,
Yeah.
moving on.
Really what it is the tea garden.
Uh-huh.
Steve,
I don't have any additional questions. Thank you.
all right. Betsy,
No questions or comments.
all right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All right, Tom, you have a request for us? Formal request?
Is there a hearing in 2 weeks?
No, there's no hearing on the 12th.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I mean, I'll put you on the 19th. Again, this one, like J Road, should go fairly quickly, especially if, you, me, Alyssa, meet on Zoom or whatever beforehand to,
Yeah.
just review the plan so we can support it going forward. This should be fairly quick, especially again, if we meet before and, you can get Alyssa and I's endorsement on your plan.
Yeah.
It should go fairly quick. So I have no problem putting you on the 19th.
Okay, I'll request the 19th.
You don't seem happy about the 19th.
Well, like everybody want to get this thing permitted, going and permitting and everything, and
I know.
we all can't keep up.
I know.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this hearing till April 19th.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this 4/19. Any other questions or comments? Steve, you're on mute. Oh, you were, sorry.
Thank you, sir. If I just could, what are we asking Tom to add for us other than the mitigation plannings? Or, I'm sorry, was there something else? I just want to make clear what we're looking for.
So we have to move the location of that dry well for the pool. And we do need to add the previous vegetation on the site, the mitigation that was previously on the site, and then in addition to this mitigation. So it's a lot of planting, Steve.
And do we have to indicate where trees need to be replaced?
Yes,
Melissa's comment.
yes.
All right, then we need clarification if there's an auto cover or fence, and if there's a fence, obviously have that for the plan.
Correct, and also, I'm sorry, and also the methodology on the bamboo removal, Tom, and the root barrier.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? All right, the motion and the second is to continue this until April 19th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Right, Freitag guy.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 19th. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
All right, thank you. This time I'll stay.
You're gonna get pizza?
Nope.
I won't put you into attendees again, John. Sorry about that.
All right, next up, continued request for hearing under notice of intent. First up, Jerry Brown, President, Sandpoint Shores Association, Inc., 0 Pinecrest Beach Drive, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to conduct beach nourishment. And Alyssa, I show the quorum excludes Courtney and Melissa. You agree? All right.
I seem to recall being around for the original bid. Did they come up?
You were on the initial one and not on the continued one.
Okay,
And I have a note that Courtney, your internet failed you
Yep.
All right, Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
Okay, thank you. For the record, again, I'm Tom Bunker with BSS Design. Back for maybe the third time as a charm. I'll put my screen up and share what we have.
Sure.
Where is this? There. Okay, so hold on a second. Now I'm missing the little bar for zooming in or out. Anyway, I'm on the site here. So this is the inset, that boat area, which we hadn't even applied for originally, but it was pointed out that there's a infraction of your regulations with boat storage up in this location. And so I met with Jerry Brown and Mike Colgan, or the OSA Association at Sandpoint Shores Association. And looking at the old aerial photos, it seems there's been a path, sort of a historical path from, this is the area where we're proposing the nourishment, adding sand here, and then the area off to the left, where this green shrub is, that's a tree. Plan continues here. So there's this path running through here that was fairly constant on the aerial photos. And a lot of this area along the beach was somewhat bare. And the area inland from this path was wooded. So we came up with this plan hoping that we could keep some of this area, keep 408 square feet. This had been all vegetated historically. Keep 408 square feet of that now cleared area for boat storage, and then 178 square feet right here. We're proposing to revegetate. This is what had part of the area that had been cleared without a permit. And so there's these pieces of sort of fence are an 8-foot long section. So there's one 8-foot section that would be removed from the back of the boat area and put down here, partly blocking the path. They'll take this 8-foot piece and put it here. And so we'll revegetate 178 square feet here. And plant in 163 square feet of this path with a tree at each end and a gate, the fence here. So that's 163 square feet. And then plant down here, which is another 245 square feet. So this 163 and this 245 adds up, I think, to 408. So this 408 square feet of planting, we hope to have approved in exchange for keeping this 408 square feet that had been cleared. So I think, frankly, this blocking off this path and making a more complete path for wildlife probably has, probably has a little higher wildlife value, habitat value than planting this here, because it's a pathway toward the pond through what will become native vegetation. And so that's it. I know staff has concerns about this not working out. Some of these shrubs being trampled. That's a possibility. But some type of barrier, additional barrier could be conditioned to protect the plants. I tried to add trees sort of along the edge here, so it wouldn't be only shrubs, and I hope the trees will grow. And I did include sweet fern in there. I know sweet fern is generally not allowed, but this is basically the whole place is pure sand, and I know sweet fern does well in sand. So anyway, that's what we're asking of at this time, and I will take your comments.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Tom. Jen?
Staff doesn't have much, only that the board is going to need to decide if you feel that this is an appropriate remedy to the violation that took place in the property. The square footage is the same, it's just not in the location where the violation took place. And we do have concerns with the vegetation being trampled as people are trying to get from one beach area to another, especially with that historic path being there. So I do have concerns with that. Tom, sweet fern isn't going to stand a chance. I know it's all sand, but we might have to try to come up with something a little bit more hardy. And then my only question, Tom, and I don't think this was addressed when we met with the association, how are they going to water? How are they going to maintain these plants?
Well, there's millions of gallons of water right there.
Okay, so just
takes a
gonna
little
bucket it
bucket.
in.
I don't know if they can have a little pump. They have kids, pay the kids with their buckets to.
So
know.
please stress that, that this is a violation. If the board does allow the plants to be in this location, they're gonna have to be monitored. Because it was a violation, there will be a monitoring report requirement, probably just once a year, but you'll have to go out there and assess the health of the plants and take some photos and write a little report to us, just so we can keep an eye and make sure that this area survives.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Bergeron.
I have no comments. Thank you.
All right. Maury, we're going to start with you.
I just had two comments. I think Carolina Rose, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it's really prickly. And that will probably stop bare legs and bare feet from running through there. So maybe that would be the plant to plant, and it would help make it not such a historic path anymore. And the other thing is possibly, a small fence or something for a couple of years until it's established, so that they are deterred from, trampling them, because, we're all like sheep. We keep going through the same path, and that's what will happen. And I think that the trade-off of the two spots is equal in restoration, and I'm fine with that. I just think that if we don't make it uncomfortable for people to walk through, it will then become another trampled mitigation. So prickly plants, Carolina Rose, maybe a fence for some period of time so they get established, and then people will start to reprogram their brain to go around it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Are there any cactus species that grow here?
I don't think so. Carolina Rose is close.
How about
Right.
bullbriar? That's native.
Ooh,
Mm,
that'll stop anybody.
mhm.
Yeah.
That'll leave a mark.
Yeah.
All right, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought they come up with a good trade. We uncovered something that maybe shouldn't have been there, but actually these boat storage areas are better than all these boats thrown all over everywhere. And I thought it was a good compromise. I'm happy with the result. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions. Thanks, staff and Tom.
All right, Betsy.
I The only other plan I could think of that would keep people out is poison ivy, which is good wildlife habitat. But I agree that perhaps, and I guess we can talk about this in deliberation, perhaps a fence, at least part of the time until it gets established, whatever it is that's going to be put there. But, and I agree with Steve that this was a good compromise.
Good.
That's all.
All right. All right, Tom, you know you're gonna put all three of those in there then, right? No, I'm kidding.
Briars, poison ivy, prickly pears, and rose. That's 4.
And ticks, add ticks to it.
Oh, boy.
How
All
about
right,
tick,
now
how
we-
about tick seed?
Now we've gone off the deep end. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat and no hands are raised, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Patton second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Earl Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have closed this hearing. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Did I hear you folks suggest poison ivy to be planted into an area?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Wow. So how
I'll
are you
go
going to
through it
stop people
once.
from, how are you going to stop people from using their Roundup on it?
All right, next up, Joseph G. M. Farah, trustees, Harborfront Realty Trust, 26 Loomis Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct and enlarge the garage, reconstruct the existing patio in the same footprint, and to install mitigation and restoration plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're continuing with the Tom Bunker Show this evening. So Tom is here to
Ah,
present his continued project.
and right now I'm looking for it on my computer. Wasn't fully prepared, but
Alyssa, I show the quorum as all of us.
okay.
Take your
Thank
time, no pressure.
No. Now for the grand finale.
Don't we wish?
Yeah, I hope so. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker, representing Joseph and Gita Farah at 26 Loomis Lane in West Falmouth. Been here a couple times before on this project, and I'll show you the latest and greatest. And when I share my screen. Okay, so this is the existing conditions, and it also shows what existed prior, well, around 2019. And some changes have been made. This time we went to the print shop across the road and got everything printed in color. So I hope you're happy with that. I think it makes it all easier to see. And so on here, there's some color coding on the existing conditions plan, where some of this stone walk is Those are new stones. So I tallied up how many, the square feet of all these stones. I think it was one of the last things I hadn't done before when calculating the mitigation. You know, as best I could, I calculated them. And we have what we had located previously, this in red, these cedar trees, ones that were there in 2009 or they're there previously. And these trees are the ones that are tallied. I'll go slower now. I understand I made people nauseous by panning around too fast. But these are tallied here, 14 trees, 138 diameter inches. And it was testified to that some of these were blowdowns and whatever else, especially out here. Some of the 4 or 5 years ago, we had some of those early spring snowstorms and things. And then there are other trees, like there are 3 unknown trees. I don't know what they are. Some kind of decorative ornamental tree that to be removed. And there are some other, a lot of this here is actually plethora and inkberry and viburnum left from previous planting, but there's still areas that would have to be filled in and with native shrubs when all of the statuary and other lawn ornaments get removed. And here there's a dead cedar tree, some smaller leyland cypress, and some stepping stones, and a table and arbor. There was another cedar tree here in the past. Some of these smaller trees are slated to be removed, and rhododendron, there's some privet and a rhododendron, but the large cryptomeria and some leyland cypress on this plan we have to remain. So that's the existing conditions, and this is where it's all grass and shows the former line of vegetation with this scalloped edge. And these rose types of plants, which I don't know if they are indeed identified as non-native, or then I have a note down here that they too will be removed to fill in with native shrubs. And I'll go to the proposed. And so on the staff report, it says we should show the air conditioning. And I said, I'm sure we showed that. It's right here. But somehow it didn't get onto the proposed plan. But there's no intention to remove the air conditioning. And we did, in fact, as Alyssa pointed out in the staff report, that we did do mitigation planting for the air conditioning. And but it does in fact not appear here, but it's there. I can add that back to the plan. So there are still the same three types of planting that we had before. One is replacement for past transgressions where a lot of vegetation was removed. Another type is mitigation planting for the increase, particularly the increase in the size of the garage, but also for these stones along here and air conditioning and the shed. And then there's also then those have absolute numbers to them as far as square feet. But the one I estimated sort of the infill area. So as I shown over on this, the left-hand side, so the infill area is sort of this one with circles or hexagons or whatever they are. You know, about 90 square feet of shrubs going in here, another 50 square feet. You know, so we have filling in the larger areas. There's not that much over here, but there still is some, but because a lot of most of these shrubs that are here are native. There's a plethora, inkberry, inkberry and viburnum over on this side. And then the solid dots are mitigation planting, which will fill, a lot of this area in here and down into this former lawn area. And this is where some of these cedar trees are limbed up like 8 to 10 feet. And I'm sure a shrub layer will grow under them. And then this patch pattern with the plus signs or the crosses is the replacement planting. As I was getting into it, there's really no difference. It's all the same planting. But I did just put it in these different symbols so you could at least see where the areas are going and how the numbers add up. So like, for instance, this area of replacement planting has 1,738 square feet, which actually is double what had been removed from this side. But then mitigation planting is over here, 504 square feet. Then there's another 591 square feet of replacement planting, plus a number of trees, and then mitigation planting all up here. Then there's some large areas on the east side, which is the infill planting. So here I have about 260 square feet of infill planting, another 220 or so square feet of infill planting here. And there's some more here where there's like a frame with some stone in it, and the rhododendron and privet in this area. And then the more mitigation planting has been expanded around here closer to the house. So all the numbers are up here as far as the what was this, mitigation. So I have the shed is 18 square feet, the different areas of the stepping stones, and then I just counted there 19 stones of different sizes. Air conditioner behind the house, that's in zone A, and then in zone B, the garage is increasing in size, the driveway, more stones, and calculated up as 2,252 square feet of mitigation required. So I went over a little bit there. And that's like 250 to 290 shrubs, 3 feet on center. So in the mitigation calculations, we put in 2 trees. In the replacement calculations, or replacement here, we have 6 trees were put back in, and there's some, I think there's some in that. Well, I have a final tally down here of 6 replacement, 2 mitigation, 4 infill. There's 12 trees proposed, 553 shrubs, 639. Oh, no, a range of between 553 to 639 shrubs. But then also that might increase if the rose row along the here is identified as needing to be removed. So those are the changes. Now what you'd have to look at the report here. Maybe you can go over your staff report and I'll answer what I can. There's too much here.
All right. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Tom, can you figure out what's going on with that dock out there for us? Whether it was ever permitted or?
I looked into it earlier before we met and didn't find anything. I didn't look since then. I'm pretty sure everybody involved thinks it has not been permitted.
Okay, we're gonna have to address that.
Yes.
So please make your clients aware that,
That was addressing, not tied to this order of conditions.
yeah, we'll address it separately. We won't tie it. Well, it's gonna be up to the board whether we tie it to this order of conditions, given the past infractions on the property. Our kind of faith isn't quite there that this will be remedied, so we may have to take stronger steps to have it addressed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say it like that. You addressed the AC unit, so thank you. We're gonna require the 3 years monitoring. Also, please inform your client that there will be a condition that probably all of this planting take place before we sign off on a building permit for the garage. So that will need to be, so just prepare them for that. The restoration and mitigation should be allowed to grow, and all the cutting on the bank and in the mitigation and restoration buffers needs to stop. And as far as the Leland cypress and the cryptomeria remaining, we heard the board the last time. We understand the board's position, but the staff is going to go on record because we feel we have to stay consistent with the other guidance that we have provided this board. It says that the non-natives should be removed. It sets a really bad precedent. And they do have the ability to decrease the wildlife habitat value on that lot. So we just want to go on record and saying that the staff believes that the non-native tree species should be removed. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. But other than that, Tom, you did a great job. This was a complicated plan, a complicated site, not by you. So I appreciate your efforts in the color coding and the different the legends that you used. And I appreciate, and I know Alyssa appreciates the color. So you went to Staples, thank you.
And I'd like to point out that the owners are prepared, they were prepared earlier to take down whatever. It'd be up to the commission members to decide, but they're prepared either way to take down whatever's required
Okay,
and replace it.
yep, understand. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Bergeron.
Just to include one more statement on what Jen had saying is that these natives were to be planted in accordance with an enforcement order. From what I understand, there were some that were planted and some of them just simply didn't do well, needed to be replaced. Replacing with a non-native was not approved. Just going on record, as we said. Thank you.
All right. All right, commissioner comments. We're going to start with Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not our first time reviewing this site. I think once again, the staff and Tom have satisfied all the concerns. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
All right, Betsy.
Tom, this was a challenging site, and you came back, you did a good job. Thanks.
Courtney.
No questions. I'll just echo Betsy's comments.
All right. Tom, good job. Maury.
You're mute,
You're on
Lori.
mute, Maury.
Thank you. 3 comments. The dock is in a V zone, so finding out the permitting or licensing of that is huge. So I think that should be tied into this, because I really feel that if we don't, it'll be lost in the shuffle. You did a great job. This was a tough lot. There was a lot going on there. Just the statuary alone was a tough job. And I know we've always stood, non-natives And if we are going to, in deliberation, require the non-native trees to be taken down, I am just gonna require that they be replanted in trees almost of substantial size. Because that lot was almost totally denuded of the trees in the entire front yard of probably 30 or 40 cedar trees back in the day that were wonderful habitat. So if we're going to take down any buffer plantings, the Leland cypress or the cryptomeria, then they're gonna be I'm just gonna ask that they be replaced with, 12 to 14-foot American hollies that create a good buffer and a good habitat, and a good windscreen, because this is a tough spot and a lot of vegetation when you plant it and it doesn't have substantial larger trees to protect it, it usually deteriorates. And if they're large, people don't seem to cut down really large, expensive trees. And I noticed that you didn't put any caliper inch. I don't think, and if I missed it, I'm sorry. It just said 14 trees would be removed and replanted, but I don't know. You told me how many caliper inches were removed, but I don't know how many caliper inches are going to be put back. So when we get to deliberation, if we decide to take away some of those buffer plants on the sides, then it will probably be substantial caliper inch to go back. And thank you for the color print. That was nice. And across the street is New Wave, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No. Is it New Wave? No, it's whatever's across the street. I'm not sure.
Yeah, New Wave. Thank you.
Yeah.
You did a great job. I love the color one.
This ad brought to you by.
Yeah.
No, I did. Well, he said Staples across the street. I'm like, I know where his office is.
Yeah.
That's-
Thank you.
All right, Melissa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Tom. Yeah,
Welcome.
good job with this. There's that statuary was exciting. I can say all this stuff there. It's pretty incredible what you can find on some properties. I'll echo Maury on the dock concept, because that needs to be figured out as well before anything else keeps or moves forward as well. And I like her holly idea. That I hadn't thought of that. I'm looking forward to seeing an improved ecosystem out there. It'd be nice. But yeah, the hollies are a good idea, Maury.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments or questions? All right, what are you thinking?
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, Tom, you know what that means. You're 2 and 2. Could be worse.
Yeah, could be.
All right, we have a
I'll take
motion
it.
and a sec. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve.
And I,
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you all.
Night, Tom.
Yep. Good night. Thank you.
Night, Tom.
Is the bunker show over?
It's over. Sorry.
Bunker show is over.
Back next week, maybe.
Night, Tom.
Good night.
Go eat your pizza.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Christopher King, JDM Investment Group LLC, 0 Low Way, Lot 4, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a single-family dwelling with attached garage, install a Title V sewage disposal system, and to install a pool and pickleball court. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Joshua Green from the Crocker Design Group. Mr. Green, is there anybody else I'm promoting up with you this evening?
I think the applicant, Chris King, I believe he's on.
And this was an open, so we have the full quorum tonight. All right,
I
Joshua,
got
you're up,
Mr.
sir.
King's coming in. And
Oh,
is
I'm
that
sorry.
all, Mr.
I
Green?
believe that's, yeah, that should be it.
Okay, great. And do you have the ability to share your screen, or do I need to share my screen for you?
I'll bring up the plan just for the record. Josh Creed from Crocker Design Group.
Thank you.
Just get the plan up. So everybody see the plan?
Yes.
So it's 0 Low Way. It's designated lot 4, I believe, in the subdivision plan. Commission may be familiar. I think it was August last year that they approved lot 3 for single family house development. Under existing conditions, lot 4 is a vacant lot. It's mostly wooded. The utilities are stubbed near the frontage. And as far as resource areas, there is FEMA flood zone that is an AE zone, as well as a offsite coastal bank. The coastal bank was delineated by DEP's chapter or policy 92.1 based on the topography offsite. As far as the actual performance standards for the coastal bank itself, it does not deposit sediment to a down gradient coastal resource, and it does not serve as a barrier to floodwaters. So given those two, it isn't considered a significant coastal bank, but it's still a coastal bank. And we have shown the 100-foot buffer coming off of that coastal bank. Dash line, it gets a little bit lost in the in their proposed, but it's there. For proposed conditions, the applicant is proposing a seashell driveway, which the utilities will generally follow up to the house. It's a single family house with an attached garage. In the back, there are a few walkways differing between paver stones and brick walkway with a pool. There is a patio with a retaining wall around that pool. And as stated before, there is a proposed pickleball court kind of in the side yard back behind the garage. The house is served by a septic system. The septic tank is shown just off to the south of the garage and the main portion of the driveway by the house. That goes down into a 3-trench system, just a traditional stone and pipe system. As far as erosion control, there will be a silt sock placed along the perimeter of the work on the down gradient side. It is with the initials SS that goes around the side, and again, just on the down gradient side. Think with that covers all the proposed work. Oh, there is 3 dry wells proposed to handle some of the roof runoff from the garage and the house. That'd open it up questions.
Thank you, sir. You can stop sharing,
Oh,
if
sorry.
you would, please. No, that's all right.
Fine.
But don't be surprised if we ask to see it again. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Green, so the only patios around the pool, there's not gonna be anything for like some outdoor kitchen area, eating area, or anything like that?
As of right now, the site plans don't have that.
Okay.
Just lawn area around it. It's relatively flat.
Well, unlike the other properties we saw this evening, they're pretty big sites, so there's something, you know, if they construct the house and determine that that's needed, you can always come back for an amendment, that's fine.
Okay.
The only other comment I have is that's an awfully big seashell driveway, kind of like, maintenance of that might be a little bit challenging. But that's the only comment. Other than that, I don't think the staff had too many concerns with this. It's not the first pickleball court we've seen. It's probably not going to be the last. And I think the only, well, that was about it. It's a pretty easy site to evaluate or project to evaluate.
all right. Ms. Bergeron,
I have no comments. Thank you.
all right. Commissioner comments. We're back to the top. Betsy,
Pretty straightforward project. Thanks. Thanks, Josh. Good presentation.
Courtney,
No questions or comments. Well done.
Short and sweet, the way I like it. Maury,
No comments. Beautiful piece of property.
really is. Melissa,
Yeah, it is a beautiful piece of property, and thank you. I will ask a question. It's fairly wooded, I must say. How much of the 1.2 acres are you actually going to be pulling out, and are you going to be replanting a little bit?
Not sure the exact square footage that's being removed. I would say it's a good portion of it though.
And Jen's going to do some landscaping?
What was that?
Is Jen gonna plant, sort of rehabilitate a bit of it?
I'm not sure. The applicant might be able to speak to some of the landscaping that might
Okay.
be planned.
Okay,
But
and then actually a
right now,
quick
we don't have
question. No, it's okay. And a quick question for Jen or for the board. Shell driveways, do we consider those pervious or impervious? I know gravel is considered impervious.
Really depends on how it's constructed. Nothing truly is pervious.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Not from an environmental standpoint, just from a maintenance standpoint, the shell driveway might be a bit challenging.
Oh, yeah.
given
no,
How
they're-
large it is.
Yeah, I had a small shell driveway. It was pretty miserable when it snowed. Okay, well, I wasn't sure how it counts towards.
Not in a
percent.
buffer zone.
It's not in a buffer zone. That's true. Okay. Sorry, I've got BVW in my head, Josh. So, okay, that's it. Thank you.
all right. Steve,
Thank you. Good use of property. Thank you for the plan and the presentation. No questions.
all right. Mr. King, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
No, I was just gonna comment on the, I'll take down, a good portion of the trees around the house. I'll definitely leave a significant buffer at the property line around, around the back and around the two sides. I'd like to leave as much as I can, coming down the driveway. And if there's a suggestion other than a seashell, driveway for that, I'm certainly happy to listen to it.
Thanks for the clarification on the trees.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anything anybody wants to add at this point?
Maury,
I just
Maureen?
had a quick question. Is the septic components H20?
They would be, and Board of Health has approved that. I forgot to
Okay.
mention that.
Only because I saw the driveway over the top of it. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
so I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve,
And
it is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you and have a good night.
Thanks.
you.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, next up. Request to extend order of conditions. First up, AC Cape Cod LLC, care of Barrett Sutton, 836 Palmer Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. DEP number 25-4444, requesting a 1-year extension. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff is recommending a 1-year extension. This was for the original work done at the auto camp. So this part of the septic, the little house that they have the bikes on, the wetland work. The project is, we are recommending an extension because there does need to be some additional work done at the auto camp in regards to the septic system, so you will be seeing an amendment shortly.
Okay, so moved for the amendment.
For a second.
Just to be clear, it's an extension.
Excuse me, you're right. Sorry.
Gotta make the lawyers happy. All right.
Well, I was
Jen, I'm-
confused when, oh, sorry, Jamie. I was just confused when Jen said we were going to see an amendment, but we haven't seen
Right.
it yet.
No, you have
Yeah.
not.
So this is for the extension, but I just want to be clear and ask if there's any public chat comments.
No public chats at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, Jen, are there any safety issues involved with this collapsed bluff that they had and the problems that they're having with their septic and everything? Because it just seems like this is taking a long time and they're still open for business.
The building commissioner has been out there to address any safety concerns, I believe. They are in the process of, like, I think the contract has been recently signed with the South Coast Creations. They're the ones doing the walls, so they need to coordinate with their engineer because the engineer needs to be on site. And as far as any, the Board of Health is overseeing the septic repairs, but there is some of that repair work that does need to be in your jurisdiction. And again, you'll be seeing, I'm anticipating a filing for the 19th, but don't quote me on that.
Okay, and how's our little pond doing back there? The little
Little
wetland?
wetland needs some help, and that can be addressed in this year-long extension.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, so we have a motion and a second to grant a one-year extension. We're gonna vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Arlo Hawk's eye.
Melissa.
Fry tug under duress, aye.
Steve?
And
It's kind of unanimous. We have granted a one-year extension. Next up, continued request for a hearing under an enforcement order. Susan and Gerald Lieber, 101 Lakeshore Drive, 16 Lakeshore Drive North, and 0 Lakeshore Drive North. Map and parcel number 22-04-027-004A, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation and construction of retaining walls within conservation jurisdiction. Jen?
I'm attempting to promote Doug Schneider up from Cape and Islands. Doug, if you can hear me, you need to do some, wait. Hang on. I'm trying to promote you up to a panelist, Doug. I see your hand raised. There we go. Gotcha.
Before we proceed, what do we have for quorum, Melissa? Do we have a quorum?
It was opened back in September. I had Lori verify. Everyone was in attendance.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right. Jen?
I promoted Doug. I'm just waiting for him to
Okay.
turn on his camera and his audio. Doug, if you're having a difficulty, can you raise your hand or type it in the chat? Okay.
He's got his hand up.
I see your hand raised, Doug. There we are.
There he is.
Sorry about that. I had to unplug and replug in the camera for some reason.
No worries. Technology. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn this one over to Alyssa. So she just can recap before, I guess, Doug, because it is an enforcement order. If you don't mind.
Not at all. Ms. Bergeron,
Okay.
you're up.
Thank you. Yes, last time we saw this project was in September of last year when the hearing was opened. There are 3 properties in question along Jenkins Pond. The first of which is 101 Lakeshore Drive. And we did receive a plan from Cape and Islands showing the restoration of the items in question. There was an unpermitted shed shack down by the pond. They are proposing to remove it. The grading and constructed timber retaining wall that was created in order to access the shed is going to stay for the removal process, and then the area will be regraded and seeded after that's done. The applicant is requesting to keep the Pea Stone fire pit patio area being a zone A. Staff recommends that this pervious surface that does not support natural vegetation is removed. There's also a small timber deck, which I think was used for like a grill or something for the shack. That should also be removed. So that was what was proposed with this project. And I believe the applicant is looking for verification that they've addressed all issues. The other 2 properties are nearly adjacent on Lakeshore Drive North. There's the undeveloped property in which the understory was removed without a permit. Various features were constructed and installed, wood features, stone features, mulched areas. Being a zone A, staff's recommending the area is fully restored and those unpermitted features removed. Any natives, of course, should remain on the property. It's also important to note that between 0 and 16 Lakeshore Drive North, there is a parcel belonging to the local association. There is some of the unpermitted features located on that parcel. So those should be addressed. And to consider access to the pond for those who are in the association and use that parcel. 16 Lakeshore Drive North is the primary residence of the Liebers. I have provided the board as well as Cape and Islands with 2 old plans of the property. One I believe was from the 90s. One was from 05 when the previous violations occurred. I did that mainly for reference just so we can see deviations and construction of features and addition of stone that has occurred since then. So those of which that are not moving closer should, being in a zone A, either be removed or mitigated for. There is a small, it's not chicken wire, it might be some kind of snow fencing that's around the edge of the pond that does inhibit the passage of wildlife. So staff's recommending that is removed. Part of the retaining wall on the property is encroaching on the next door property. So that should either be removed or permission obtained from the neighbors for the encroachment. There has been issue with fertilization on the property, and that should cease given the town's nitrogen bylaw. As provided with the photo, their beach area was once lawn. The tree did fall for whichever causes, I'm not sure, but it was not removed, it did fall. So we're suggesting that be returned to a vegetated state. And staff had concerns with the location of the dock given the 2005 plan and the restrictions required for property line offsets. It was constructed in the wrong location and that should be looked into. I believe that covers it for staff. Sorry, that was a lot.
Mr. Snyder, you're up, sir.
Okay. I was sent primarily to listen and see what's going on here. I'd be happy to share my screen and go through what I know at this point, and just to give the commission a better view of what's happening here. If I may share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. If everybody see this plan? for 101 Lake Shore. This is a secondary property that the Liebers own. Wrong way. Located on the south side of the pond. Apparently they had a tenant in there, the long-term tenant, that built the shed, so-called shed on the waterfront, which they are willing to remove along with the timber deck and the timber retaining wall that are in that area, and have that, all of that area replanted. I assume that you've seen pictures of this area. So this area would be revegetated that was disturbed. They would like to keep the stone pad, the pea stone patio where the fire pit is. That's between two stone, call them revetments, but it's kind of a harsh term. Little small stone retaining walls that terrace up from the area down by the water up towards the house. It's a terraced up area, and the little pea stone fire pit area sits in the middle of that. Jumping over to the other property on the north side of the pond. So their main house at number 16, they've owned for a number of years. A few years ago, they picked up the abutting lot. It's kind of abutting. There is a strip of land that in between that's owned by the association. And when they acquired it, they have done a great deal of work on the property to try and remove what they thought were invasives and do some landscaping with walkways, some stonework. They put in a wooden deck. They tried to, there's some runoff apparently that comes down off of Lake Shore Drive. They tried to install a stone swale to capture that runoff. And a couple of small sheds and walkways in the area, all of which is in the A zone to the pond. There is a BVW down at the pond. On the main house itself, there was a comment about the dock. It does appear that it was installed on the wrong side of the brick patio from what was the license. It should have been on the other side. But the Liebers have said that that is where it has been ever since it was installed. Staff had provided 2 other plans for the site that show some variations in what exists on number 16, which I will leave that for the commission to make their decision on what is changed. Things that I was primarily sent to listen and try and provide some guidance to the Liebers as we move forward here. And I will stop sharing my screen unless you want me to keep it up.
For now, if you would take it down, please. Thanks. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with the first property, the 101 Lakeshore. Doug, I think Alyssa has provided a pretty clear guidance on what we're going to expect in her staff report. Let's start with 101. Obviously, the shed, the deck, and staff's recommending the fire pit be removed and that area restored to lawn. So all of those do need to be taken care of. That's the easiest property to work with right now. So correct me if I'm wrong, Alyssa, there was nothing else on that, right? Just remove the deck, the shed, and the fire pit.
And also the retaining feature.
Oh yeah, the retaining feature, they were gonna remove that and regrade that slope.
Correct.
Okay, so that's pretty easy. That's pretty easy to handle under an enforcement order. The other two properties become a little bit more complicated. I'll start with the vacant parcel first on 0 Lakeshore Drive, Doug. We have pretty clear pictures from past violations on these properties, kind of what the vegetation was. And it was what you would expect from a native understory on an inland pond. There weren't a lot of invasives in there. All of the features, all of the changes that were done on that property, all of it's going to have to be removed, and that property is going to need to be restored with a native understory consistent with that area. I do not want to see Rose. I don't want to see St. Johnsport. I want to see the native buffer that was there prior to all these all of the alterations that was done on the property. The little strip is interesting because I believe that the driveway is encroaching on the association's property. Is that correct? And so they probably need either permission from the association to keep the driveway there, or yeah.
There is a deeded easement agreement.
Oh, there
for
is?
for the
Oh.
driveway.
Okay,
driveway.
excellent. So that's good. So if you could provide a copy of that to us, that would be great. So that area is taken care of. And then you said something about the license for the dock. Is there a license for that structure?
Yes, there is.
Oh, good. Could you provide that to us as well so we can compare what's out there matches the license? I know the location might be off, but we want to just make sure the structure is the same size.
Certainly.
Perfect. And do you know when, I guess that the shed or the studio, or not quite sure what you call it, the other little outbuilding closer to the road, do you know when that went in?
I do not.
So we'll need to determine.
It does not show on the plans that you forwarded earlier.
It was not shown?
No.
Yeah, so we'll have to determine when that structure went in. And if it needs to be mitigated for, because it's within that zone A, so I'm not quite sure how that went in at a building permit level, but we'll have to check on that. So, I mean, I think that the staff report gives some guidance to what we're gonna want to see. I'm concerned that there may have been alteration to the wetland itself down by the pond's edge. Have you had a wetland scientist go out and check that area out to see if that was altered in any way?
We do show a BVW line down at the waterfront, more on the eastern side of the lot, and that was I think ERC flagged that. I think
Yeah,
Brad
okay.
Home.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, that's pretty much what the staff is looking for to remedy this enforcement matter. Again, all the elements, all the stonework, the drainage swale, the boulders, the wooden deck, the other little wooden decks, the wooden patio, the little shed, all the mulch, all of that on the Zero Lakeshore needs to be removed. And that whole slope needs to be pretty heavily vegetated with native species, consistent with a pond front. So we'll probably need to see a revised plan with a restoration component to it, Doug. I mean, I think 101, again, is pretty straightforward. We could probably issue an enforcement order on that one, instructing you to remove all the elements and then giving you a time frame and a timeline to do that. But I think Zero Lakeshore and 16 Lakeshore are going to require a little bit more work. So that's where the staff, I think, is landing on this one.
Okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The 101 is pretty straightforward.
I think we can wrap that one up. We could probably vote an enforcement order at our next hearing and get them started with that project in that parcel, get them moving to clean up that enforcement, and then have you continue to work with them on the enforcement for 16 in Zero Lakeshore.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yes. If we could work with you to put together whatever you need for a plan.
For Zero Lakeshore and 16 Lakeshore?
Yes.
Absolutely. We'd be happy to meet on a Zoom with you, Jeff, the Lieblers, and anybody you'd like.
Okay.
And we can be very clear with your client on what we're expecting for a restoration.
Sure.
And I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Unless Alyssa wants to, did I miss anything? Alyssa, you're the one that did most of the work on, you did all of the work on this one.
I think between the two of us, everything was addressed.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
All right, anybody have any questions or comments at this point?
No, thank you.
All right,
Oh, Maury.
Maury,
I just had one question on the lot 16. I think it's 131 square foot shed that's literally on the lot line. Was that permitted? And the other one, which is in the A zone, which is 162 square feet totally in the A zone. Were those permitted? Those two sheds?
Maury, I can say that I think the second shed you talked about, the one closer to the pond and next to that big stone patio.
Yeah.
I think that's been there.
Okay.
Oh, Alyssa, maybe I'm wrong.
No, it has been there. When I did look at the 05 plan, it looks like it might be larger, but something has been there.
Yeah, something's been there. I remember something being there when I first went out to this property in 06.
Okay.
But the second one, the one closer to the street, right on that lot line, that is recent.
Okay, yeah, and you can't have a shed on a lot line that's over 100 square feet, so, and the brick patio on the water was permitted?
We can look into that. That's been there for a while, but we'll look into that more for you more.
Okay. I'm just a little disturbed that 3 lots all have wetland issues that needed conservation permitting. So I do hope that the owners of these properties understand that when you own property near a pond or a wetland, that you need to come in front of us for a permit. And hopefully after this, they will understand that. Thank you.
Ms. Bergeron.
Just a note from Maury, the brick patio is on the 1999 plan. I don't know if it was permitted back then, but it existed then.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
And actually,
Melissa?
no, I'm all set.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Along Maury's line of thought, I've been wondering about these patios that are between the houses and the pond itself. The big stone patio on is it 101? I
16.
guess was that originally part of the house, or has that been permitted? So I don't believe this anymore, but especially on number one, on 101, there's a patio, there's a deck, and then in front of the deck, and then it touches the A zone line. There's, the stepping stone thing. I'm wondering if that's actually an original permitted part of the house, or if that's been added on without a permit. If that needs to be mitigated for.
Are you talking about 101?
On 101, the stuff with on the plan, it has the big, it looks like stepping stone patio. You have the dwelling, then there's off to the
That appears to be just outside our jurisdiction, Melissa. The big stepping stone patio next to
Okay.
the wood deck,
yeah,
just shy of our jurisdiction, just
Just shy.
outside.
okay. And then on 16 Lakeshore Drive, the big stone patio with the extension over to the gravel parking, was that originally permitted with the house? That's all inside the A zone.
We can look into that for you.
Yeah, it just.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something to peek into. Thanks.
I mean,
A lot of that's-
there are
a lot of
issues.
that's-
Oh, sorry, Doug.
You see a lot of that patio shows on the 2005 plan. If
And
not
the
all of it.
And the 1999.
And the 99 plan? Okay. Okay, I don't know.
I mean, there are
wouldn't surprise
issues
me.
on 16 Lake Shore that we can button up, Melissa. But 0 Lake Shore is
Yeah.
that's a major enforcement.
Yeah.
That's a major
basically,
violation.
That's really horrifying. Okay, thank you. That's it.
All right, anybody else?
Thanks for the plans, Doug.
So Jen, what are we looking to do? We can vote on 101.
Yep, let's continue. All right, Kristen, you're gonna have to follow me on this one. We're gonna continue 101 to April 19th, and we'll vote enforcement order at that time. We'll get something drafted for the board to review, and so we can discuss and vote that on the 19th. Doug, how much time do you think you need to come up with a restoration plan and a restoration mitigation plan for 16 Lakeshore and a full restoration plan for 0 Lakeshore? How much time do you think you're going to need for that?
I'm sorry, I was muted.
It's
Um,
okay.
It's going to be several weeks.
Well, we're getting
we're
close to a
we've gotta
really
get- we've
great
gotta-
planting time, so
Yeah, whatever we do, we've got to get the Liebers on board with it and get their authorization to move forward with a plan. So at
the
least,
Libras do
at least-
understand that this is an enforcement matter.
I do.
And if they don't move forward to it, I will get our legal team involved.
I will pass that along.
Please
That's what I'm
do,
here for.
please do.
Can we, at the moment, go to the 19th? Because I think we've got something else on the 19th.
I don't think you'll have a plan with them done by the 19th for that, but I mean, if you want to do all 3 of them to the 19th, that's fine.
Look,
I mean, it's a lot going on the 19th now because we don't know what our filing is going to be, but I I mean, the 101 Lake Shore is easy enough. We'll just quickly vote an enforcement order on that, get them moving on that one with the time frame. But this one, I don't want to drag out too long because we're getting into, you know, optimal planting time. And we want to get them moving on this.
Okay. Can we tentatively then maybe are you meeting the 26th?
Yes, we are. So you want to do 101 Lake Shore to the 19th and then 0 and 16 Lake Shore to the 26th?
Yes, we don't have to add anything to the 101 plan. I think that's got everything on it.
That's got everything on it. I'm just continuing it so we can draft an enforcement order for the board to vote.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
No. But we're gonna vote on these separately. So we're gonna vote to continue 101 to 419, which would, at that point, we would vote the enforcement order, correct?
Correct.
All right, and then,
I'll make that motion now,
hold
Jamie.
on. And then, this is so that I understand what we're voting on. So then 0 and 16, we're gonna continue to 426. In theory, we're gonna see a plan, a restoration plan. But we wouldn't be voting on the enforcement order that night, correct?
Correct. We want to be able to see a plan, evaluate it, have the board weigh in on it.
Okay. All right, just so we're clear. All right, so again, so 101, we're gonna vote on that now. I'll take a motion in a second, which would continue it to 419 for the purposes of voting on an enforcement order written by staff.
So I'll
Everybody
make
clear
that
on
motion. Yep.
Thank you.
Bird second.
All right, again, this is for 101. The motion and the second is continue to 419. Any questions? A lot to consume. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Right, tall guy.
Steve?
And
All right, it is unanimous. 101 has been continued to 419. 0 and 16 will be, I understand is the request is to continue it until 426. So I would take a motion and a second to that effect.
So move, Gladfelter.
Bird second.
All right. Again, this is a motion and a second to continue 0 and 16 until 426. Everybody clear? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Right, tall guy.
Steve.
I.
It is unanimous. We have continued 0 and 16 to 426. Thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Doug. Good night.
Thank you and good night.
Night, Doug.
That wasn't confusing at all.
Tried to make it as simple as possible, Mr. Chair.
No, it is.
But we want to just clean one of them up. You know, I don't want to keep dragging all three of them out. If we can clean it up the 101, that'll be great.
This has been dragging out as long as I've been on conservation, which
Yeah,
goes back
that's
20
why
years.
we'll get our legal team involved.
Long time.
Yeah. All right. Next up, vote orders of conditions. First up. Heidenberg, 33 North Bournes Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass.
1 second.
The quorum is all of us.
Let me find that one.
Was the dock permitted was the question.
So this is to construct the addition on the north side of the property, enlarge the existing patio, and add mitigation plantings. They were going to submit a revised plan showing the trees. Alyssa, did you speak with? Was it JC? Is it JC Engineering?
I did, but it was for a different matter, something they would like to permit a change to in the future.
Oh, okay. So I think we discussed adding a vista, so we have an established vista for them. Adding the trees. I had add trees for replace. I don't know what that means. Trees near the addition will need to be replaced because there's that double trunked one, I think that's coming out, so they'll need to replace that. They need to remove the unpermitted patio that's moving closer to the resource area than the present primary structure. And that'll be prior to a building permit being issued. And then let's see, and then we need a revised plan with caliper inches because their construction access, there's quite a few trees along that. Where's my arrow? Along that northern property line, there's quite a few trees that we want to make sure that they remain. So we'll need a revised plan showing the trees. And again, the patio removed prior to us signing off on a building permit. And then establishing that vista corridor on that revised plan. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have anything they want to see in there? All right, what are you thinking?
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. If there's nothing further. All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Hello, Hawk's Eye.
Melissa,
Herzog, aye.
Steve.
And I,
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Matthew Waldrop, NStar Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, intersection of Surf Drive and Shore Street, Falmouth, Mass.
That's the cable, redundant cable going over to the vineyard. They need to take proper erosion control measures in the Surf Drive parking lot. Remember, they're be directionally drilling from the Surf Drive parking lot out, and then they're going to be, then they pop up, and then they're going to be, what did the term they used? For lack of a better term, they're going to be trenching it across.
Molding. Yeah,
Yeah, molding, but it's like,
yeah, some other word.
yeah, in like a shallow trench. And then they discussed the mitigation measures of the different techniques that might be used in case the cable has to be on the sea floor if they can't mole it, by using like blankets, like the Geotech blankets or the gabions or whatever on the cable. I don't know if any conditions the board would like to put on the project. Did they mention any sort of siltation control, turbidity control?
not that I remember, but
I don't
because they
remember.
were
I don't know
gonna,
how you would do that.
well, because the molding or plow, I think it's called plowing.
Plowing.
The
that was it.
plowing doesn't really create much turbidity because it's below surface.
Yeah, jet plowing is what I have
Yeah,
here,
plowing.
or
Okay.
hydro plowing.
So we'll go back over everything and then make some appropriate conditions that we feel just to protect like the beach and.
Eelgrass beds.
erosion. Yeah, okay.
And we also, for storm protocol, that this obviously is gonna be done in the winter, off season. That if storms, there was gonna be a storm event, remember when they did Chappie over at the causeway? All those timbers broke loose and battered up and down the shore.
Yeah.
So if there's a storm coming, they have to have a time frame to remove if
Correct.
necessary. Yeah, and
And
the
I
frac
think we
tank-
had that in when they had the cable go from the mill road parking lot across. So we'll take a look at that and give the appropriate similar conditions for the on land portion of that.
Okay. Yeah, because the Mill Road one at least had the road and a barrier beach between it. This is literally on the beach.
On beach.
And the frac tank, I think the way it was proposed is literally on the edge of the parking lot, on the edge of the beach.
Maury, didn't you have some concerns about the frac tank
Frac tank?
damaging the parking lot?
Yeah, the weight of it.
Okay.
So I think we just put that any damage needs to, I'm sure they have to have insurance, but that they have to repair and put into the original state, anything that they disturb.
I'm sure they're gonna have to have a license with the town.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
A big one.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Okay,
Melissa?
Actually, I
Sorry,
wanted
sorry,
to just bring up the pre-project, returning it to pre-project conditions, but also I have in my notes that Marine Fisheries and Natural Heritage hadn't commented yet. Have we heard anything on that yet?
not yet. They're still working through that process with them.
Okay. I hope they'll update us on that.
I can get an update for you on that. I'll reach out to Dwight Dunk.
Yeah, because we've got all kinds of things flying around out there. Birds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right,
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Freitag second.
all right. We have, excuse me, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Anything further? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Freitag aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Rand's Canal Association, Inc., 0 Rand's Canal, North Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, this is the dredging project, so maintenance dredging and then going up into Wren's Canal. They need to provide us with a construction protocol. They were still on the fence whether they were gonna do a portion of the dredging from land or everything was gonna be done for a barge. And that needs to be submitted. There was discussion about having an environmental monitor on site because the last time they dredged this area, it got pretty messy. So we'll condition an EM to be approved by the staff to be on site during the work. Silt boom. And there was some concerns about the impact to Eelgrass from the barge. They cover everything?
Think so.
Okay, excellent. So we will write up some appropriate conditions concerning those points.
Relocating shellfish. They mentioned. Don't know how they're gonna relocate shellfish.
They relay them when they find them. They're supposed to relay them.
Yeah,
Do you want them to relay the,
my notes have in here that they said they were gonna do that.
Well,
they were going to, hang on, they were going to,
There was a discussion about scallops and eelgrass too.
I have that in my notes too.
Yeah.
yeah, hang on.
They were claiming no eelgrass, but they were claiming scallops, and I don't know, I've never seen a scallop not grow on eelgrass or in eelgrass, so. That's where you go to find them.
Hang on one second. I had a discussion. They did talk about mitigating for scallops. I'll double check what that was because I remember I had this conversation with Chuck and I just can't remember what it said, but it wasn't relaying them or relocating them or anything like that. But I will double check with Chuck because I do know I talked to him about their mitigation plan for scallops and it wasn't that much of a mitigation plan, but I will put that in there. If you want them to relay out the shellfish, I can absolutely make it a condition, but that's a fairly large area.
Is it predominantly scallops or quahogs? I mean,
Chuck and Christina were more worried about the scallops than they were
Scallops.
about the quahogs.
yeah.
Poor quahogs.
Well, but the eelgrass is the big concern, that once you remove the eelgrass, then the house for the scallops is gone.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll put in some measures that they need to protect the eelgrass. And give us that construction protocol of how they're actually going to be doing the work. Well, who'd they say that was going to be doing the work? It wasn't, it was,
Robert Hour.
Hour.
And also, I think Melissa had a concern about the heavy metals.
Yeah. So, thank you, Maureen. Because of the heavy metals, they had said that they were going to transport the sludge by boat and not doing it on land. And I think because of all the arsenic and the lead and the cadmium, et cetera, that they should not be staging it on the beach and then moving it on.
That's what they said. They can't give you, aren't going to give a protocol till they know what the chemical composition is.
Yeah.
That's what's going to determine which method they use.
Well, they've got the chemical composition because we read it last week. And I'd like to just emphasize that.
Then they're going to translate the problem from Falmouth to New Bedford.
Unfortunately, yeah. So environmental justice, I don't know what to do about that. Maybe we should just not let them dredge.
Good luck with that.
Well, I know how I'm voting. So,
Anything else?
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as we have just discussed. If there's nothing else. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawkseye.
Melissa,
abstain.
Steve,
Pat and I.
all right, we have 5 yea and 1 abstention. We have issued an order of conditions. Next, Nordo Nissi the third and Jane R. Nissi, 117 Little Neck Bars Road, Falmouth, Mass. We have a quorum issue with this. So we're gonna need a volunteer to look at minutes, review the project, yada, yada, yada. And then Monday or Tuesday, we'll schedule a quick Zoom meeting to issue an order of conditions. So I have, Alyssa, tell me if you agree. I show that Courtney, Maury, and Melissa were not on this quorum. And we don't have Kevin tonight, so therefore, we don't have a quorum to vote this. So I'll turn it over to you, Jen.
Okay, so Melissa, Courtney, or Maury, which one wants to be the guinea pig for the Mullen Rule?
Is it controversial?
No.
I'm actually, I'm doing the septic there, so I really can't.
Yeah, you
Okay,
have to
I can-
recuse.
It's Little Neck Bars Road,
I'm
right?
deep.
Little Neck
Yep.
Bars Road, it's not very controversial. It was a Tim Santos project. It's addressing some violation with some trees and then some other things.
Okay, I'll swing by on Friday to get a copy of the plans and
Yep, we can actually, we'll email you everything, Melissa.
great, okay.
We'll email you everything. We'll email you the whole thing. And then,
Next week, Monday or Tuesday, we'll do a vote.
correct.
Okay,
So in that case, I need to post a public meeting. I have to post a meeting. So which day is better for everyone?
What time are you talking?
yeah, what time are we talking?
I am talking whatever time you guys would like me to talk.
Are we talking? We're looking at April 3rd or 4th, right?
We're looking at April 3rd or 4th.
I can't do Tuesday between 8 and 10.
Let's do Monday morning.
Monday morning's fine with me. Steve, does Monday morning work with you? I know you're doing your teaching gig.
Yeah, I'll be working. Let's do it at 6:45.
It's
How about
fine with
Monday
me,
after-
Steve.
Oh, man.
How about afternoon, Steve? End of day.
Jamie?
After 2:30, I'm good.
Jamie,
Later in the
it's gonna be
afternoon.
up to you.
Well, later in the afternoon.
Okay, how late do you want to go? You want 4 o'clock,
Well,
4:15,
3:30.
3:30? I'll post a public meeting for Monday, April 3rd at 3:30 to vote this one order of conditions via Zoom.
15:30 Concom. Monday.
Monday.
Well, Melissa, you just have to look at and just glance at the minutes and just, get a comfort level that particularly the last meeting
Mhm.
was 3:15.
Jen will forward me everything and then I'll walk past the place.
Yep, that's
Poke my
fine.
head in. Okay.
Right, but we can't bring up, at this point, it's order conditions.
Yeah, I'll just look.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just the quorum and Melissa, correct?
Minus
Yeah.
minus
The-
Kevin.
The quorum in this case will be Betsy, myself, Steve, Melissa.
Okay.
Interesting workaround.
Because it could have been you or I, but I have a conflict.
Yeah.
Melissa.
It's okay, I can get through it.
We got that?
Yep,
I think
It's
we're good.
117, right?
yep, 117 Little Neck Bars.
Okay.
All right. With that straightened out. Do we have to do anything else for that? As far as the
Nope,
Mullen
I'll
Rule
make
goes?
sure, I'll cover everything else.
All right. All right. That's it, folks. One more.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
10 second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
Carlo Hawks eye.
Hard talk, guy.
And Pat and I.
Woo!
And
It is
Good night,
unanimous. We
everybody.
are adjourned. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Good night,
everyone.
everyone.
Night.
Night, guys.